Wonderful. I am live here. And so let me just take a minute here, ladies and gentlemen. You guys are tuned in. I had the campaign event scheduled. We've been having some issues all day long, but you know what? We're here now, and I am glad about it. So, what I want to do is talk to you today about this financial literacy campaign. Had this event scheduled, had some technical issues, but we're going live on YouTube and on Facebook and Periscope right now. So if you tune into this, please share it. This was shared. We had some people scheduled for the live event, but I'm sorry they were not able to make it. But we're going to get right in today with our special guest here, Miss Sylvia Chambly. How are you doing on today? I'm so excited. It's live. I'm so excited. No more technical issues.
Thank you for having me, Calvin.
Yes.
Technical issues let you know you're alive and well.
That's what it is. That's how they do it.
I will
Technical
appreciate that.
issues. Yes. So if you're tuned in and watching, listen, if you have any questions or comments, please post them. And so I want to get right into this. So Silva, can you tell us a little bit? Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear, right? You can hear me good and clear and loud. Awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself? And also, y'all, I'm going live on LinkedIn right now. So we're connected on LinkedIn. You can tune in on LinkedIn, or you can share this because we're going live there too. Again, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. So, Sylvia, can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into this powerful discussion on today?
Hey, Calvin. Good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah.
This is Sylvia from far west El Paso, Texas, as far west as you can go and still call it Texas. I am an Army baby. I don't like to call myself an Army brat. My family moved here a long time ago in the 60s, and in the late 60s they had me. And Calvin, I've lived here off and on almost my whole life. I'm a mom of two. I have my son. He's in his second year of university, but actually his fourth year of university, and I'll share that little tip as I go along. And then my daughter will be 17 on Friday. And I have a wonderful husband, and he does this campaign with me. But just a little bit of background about me. I am a graduate of University of Texas at El Paso. I have a double degree in anthropology and biology. I worked for the U.S. government for over 22 years, 25 if you count when I was a student worker as well. And, about 11 years ago, 12 years ago, actually, I decided that I wasn't doing really well financially. I was what you call, I guess you would call me a temporary employee. As a contractor, you have 18 months of paid wonderful pay, and you have 6 months of unpaid vacation. The thing is, you never know when you're going to get your unpaid vacations. And so I made a change, and I stepped into the financial field thinking I was just going to learn enough to be able to take care of my own um, just things that I wanted to know and I didn't understand. I heard a lot of urban myths all around me from many of my colleagues, and now here I am, 11 years later, and part of this wonderful campaign that we're going to talk about, and just a mom of two in far west Texas, El Paso, and looking forward to our talk today. So I'm not sure where Calvin is.
I'm here. And again, yeah, I was dealing with some technical issues. This is supposed to be live on YouTube. I was just double checking that. And it looks like the YouTube and the LinkedIn accounts are not working. So we're just live on Facebook and Twitch and Periscope right now, which is fine. But we're live. So I'll just deal with that later. We're live. Let's get right into this, and let's get into this conversation. So if you're listening here, we're talking about this financial literacy campaign, which is a campaign to educate 30 million families by the year 2030. And to do that, I'm doing my part. I'm part of the campaign. I wanted to bring another financial professional on. We're part of the same organization. I wanted to bring Sylvia on to talk about some things and share some information with you, and it's going to be very powerful. So before we get into that, there's a link that you see scrolling on the bottom of the screen right now. So one of the things that you can do, I want you to go to that link, put your information in, and we'll share with you how you can join this campaign, and we'll share with you how you can get access to some free courses. We'll talk about it at the end, but let's get into this. So, Sylvia, listen. So, I'm gonna ask you a few questions, and of course, in America, what is the number one thing that you think is challenging 85% of Americans? The number one thing that is challenging around 85% of Americans. What would that be?
Um, 85% of Americans don't make enough money to actually pay their bills and put money away for retirement. And why is that a big challenge? Because everybody's driving 100 miles an hour and they're about to slam into a brick wall when they hit retirement, or their body gives out on them and they can't work anymore, and they may not have any money coming in, no cash flow. That is an 85% of America challenge.
85% of Americans. So you're saying that the challenge is they don't make enough money.
Yeah, they don't make enough money to pay their, their house, their mortgage, their rent, just clothe their children, pay their bills, and put away for retirement, to save enough money for retirement. In fact, I always ask people this question, Calvin, and the question is money controlling you, or do you control your money? So the question again is money controlling you, or do you control your money?
Hmm.
Because if I ask the average American, uh, either they get mad and won't to answer, or they feel like, maybe it hits a vulnerable point, and they don't want to answer, or they go, oh my God, money absolutely controls me.
Well, why do you think money? And I'll insert this in there before we transition to the next question. Why do you think money is a sore spot for a lot of people? Why do you think that that conversation is a sore spot for a lot of people? That people like talking about um, their money.
That's a great question, Calvin. I think it's multifaceted, but if you want to know the main reason, either they truly just don't make enough money. I have friends that work in the IT sector. They sometimes they put in a 70-hour week, yet they don't make a 70-hour week paycheck. They make a 40-hour a week paycheck. So I think a lot of times our pay doesn't keep up with the cost of living. B, um, one of the things that people don't recognize is everything costs money. Whether you belong to a swimming pool, or you belong to a gym, or you need to turn the lights on when you go home. I'm not going to say money is the most important thing, but it's kind of close to oxygen. In the country that we live in, if you do not have money, you do
Mm.
not have security. You know, you have to have money to live. But most people don't even know what to do with their money, because they spend more than they take in. And then if they are able to save money, oftentimes they don't have a baseline of knowledge to know where to put that money, so that that money works hard for them.
See, and that's what it's all about right there too. That's a huge portion. I mean, that's a huge part of it too. How can people use their money to work for them? Well, let me just go here to the next question here. So the next question here that I have for you is: there more than one challenge facing Americans, and what are these challenges? I know I asked you about the number one challenge, but I know you mentioned a little bit of that. That there was more than one challenge. So can you talk to us about this question?
Yeah, absolutely. The other biggest challenge I say for most Americans is most Americans are just one or two paychecks away from complete disaster. What do I mean by that, Calvin? I mean that they're one or two paychecks away, that if a catastrophic event happens in their life, it could actually mean that they lose their home or the place that they live. We only have to look back to the last 12 months of COVID, shelter in place, how many people were not prepared? You know, a good friend of mine in Southern California was telling me that a lot of the small business owners in the Orange County area, they own small businesses or they are employed by small businesses, but they always lived very well. They didn't put anything away. And if you go to Orange County right now to one of the more well-to-do neighborhoods where people are usually financially thriving, they are literally they are literally um, you will see nothing but foreclosure signs. It's littered with foreclosure signs. All of those people lost their homes because they were not ready. They lived paycheck to paycheck and they didn't have anything in reserves, and now they've lost their home. So what I so 80 and I would say 85% of people are in that
Wow.
same boat. If you get an accident, say you live in a major city off of I-10, I-20, one of the major interstates, whether you're in California or somewhere in Texas or Florida, if you're in a major catastrophic accident, I want to ask everybody this question right now. If you were in a major catastrophic accident,
Wow.
would you be okay after not having a paycheck after 3 months?
Wow.
Would you be able to pay your mortgage? Would you be able to pay your car note? Would you have any reserves to live on? For most people, the answer is no, they would not.
Wow.
The average family in America has less than $500 sitting in a liquid account for them to borrow from.
That's powerful. I mean, and it's something for us to it's something to think about. You said, can you say that one more time? Hold on, can you make that statement one more time? I think that's something that's powerful. A lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, if you know if you have a catastrophic event, either because the main breadwinner in your home, your husband or your wife, loses their job because either they die or they don't have to die. They have a stroke in their 30s, which are becoming more common these days. And they can't go back to work for 2 years or they can't go
Mm,
back to work ever again. After 3 months of them not going to work and not having cash flow coming in to pay your bills,
right.
would you be okay?
And
Would
see, I
you
think that's no. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just would you be okay? Because most Americans they on average have less than $500 in a savings account to tap in case there's an emergency, like a hot water heater going out or something like that.
Right. And I think that's important too. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this because if somebody who's watching and you're a veteran, I know pastors, I know leaders, I know veterans, I have a heart for veterans, but there are a lot of things that we just were not told about our money. Had I known about some of the information and some of these topics that we're talking about here, I could have retired twice. I could have retired out of the military and then just stayed at home and started a business or just done something else, right? And you mentioned some things on that I know you are going to mention. So you said not making enough money, and then you mentioned that people some challenges Americans face. Number one, not making enough money. Number two, spending more than what they actually make. You know,
Yes, that's a
so
big one. And I
how
have to say, Calvin, I'm guilty of it too. I, I,
see?
I mean, we just, from our government down, our government spends more on with money they don't have.
Hmm,
I don't care what the Federal Reserve says. you know, you know,
right.
um, we have to learn to live within our means, and we have
Right.
no discipline to put any money away.
Save.
And and for me personally, Calvin, I'm just speaking for me. It's not my first nature. So I actually plug myself into this one class. I take it twice a month to remind me, and I keep in the front of my mind what my goals are because I don't want to be 65 or 70 years old and I have to choose between having having to pay buy a new car or I
Right.
don't get to take any medicine. I can't take my medicine because I need to buy a new car because I still need to go places.
Right. Oh wow. And see, that comes up. I'm gonna put this up here. This comes up to a comment you that ties into a comment you mentioned earlier was, how will you retire with dignity? I'm gonna let you touch on this question here because I want it's gonna lead into the next question, which is the healthcare directive. So this question here, how will you retire with dignity? What would you tell people about that? And there may be people that have money sitting on like, what would you tell people about retiring with dignity?
Well, I'm just gonna share what I've seen in 11 years out in the field, just helping families from healthcare directives, like you just mentioned. That Calvin, in El Paso, we mostly have federal jobs.
Mm,
We're a very, very big federally driven employed town, but the other big thing that we have here in El Paso is the school districts. We have five.
mm,
We were a mission town, and all the missions grew together, so they ended up being all independent school districts. Why is that important? I've had the opportunity and the honor to sit with many educators, school teachers. These are hardworking men and women who often take portions of their paycheck and put it back in their classroom.
mm.
And so I really respect them. But when you look at them and having worked for 25 to 30 years, you look at what they have as their supplemental income for
Oh,
retirement.
yes.
Oftentimes it's not more than 50, 45,000, 50K, 70,000.
Hmm.
And the reason why that is there's a specific vehicle that they use that is I personally feel like it's a bit of um, predatorial because they're allowed to operate with teachers, and I'm not picking on them specifically, but they're a retirement vehicle, a tax deferred vehicle, and they get very low interest rates. And teachers get discouraged. They put in for 3 years, then they stop putting in for 4 years. Then they feel guilty because they're not putting any money in their retirement. And they know they should because they're smart people. But they put it back in there and they see that they never got more than 2%. And they get discouraged again. And they end up with 4 or 5 of these accounts.
Right.
And so they have lots of little pockets of money, like 10,000 here, 12,000 there, 5,000 here, and they're with different companies. So all their money's out there in tax deferred accounts. All of them are getting less than, at best, 3.5% interest, and they're not all together in one pot where they can
Right.
actually get some momentum to compound on their behalf. And so teachers oftentimes they retire with very little retirement supplemental income.
Wow.
And I don't know if you know this, Calvin, but for the majority of teachers all across the United States, but I can specifically speak about Texas. Um, now
And
this
that's where
isn't
you are,
every
right? Texas.
Yeah, I'm in Texas. Now this isn't particularly everywhere, but in a lot of states. A lot of those teachers go straight from college into working as a school teacher. Well, in Texas, you pay right into your Texas retirement account. You don't pay into Social Security. They don't take out money for your Medicare.
Hmm.
So that means if you didn't work your quarters, you went straight in to being a school teacher, you never had an opportunity to earn your merits for Medicare. You never
Mm.
have you don't get to participate in Social Security. So a lot of those teachers are going to need those supplemental incomes that they set up, but they're such small pensions and they won't necessarily get them down the road. So what I would say
Wow.
is that a really big challenge for people is to grow enough money so that they can retire and retire with dignity.
To grow enough money so that they can retire and retire that and retire with dignity. So let's move out. Let's move on here. And I'm glad you shared that information about the teachers because teachers are near and dear to my heart. Again, I said it earlier. I was an Army instructor in the Army. I taught for, I was in Texas, so I taught for a local college there. I taught for college in the military, and I'm still educating. right? So for someone to contribute as much as they contribute as an educator to our society, and then not be able to retire as much as they would like to, with dignity, is something that needs to be changed. It's something that we can change. So I'm going to go to the next question here. So I'm going to ask you these next questions. So the one I'm going to go to, because you mentioned it, I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna jump a little bit. I want to go to the health directive. What is a healthcare directive? Can we talk? And why do people need it? What,
Yeah, this is, and I hopefully, if we have any families here that have children that are 20, or children that are traveling on baseball or ballet trips or some kind of trip where they're not with mom and dad, Calvin, everybody needs a healthcare directive. What that means is if I become incapacitated and I am not able to make my wishes known because I am not conscious, but I'm alive, I am able to allow people to know what my wishes are. So let me give you an example. There was a lady, I don't know if any of your viewers heard about her. I want to say this is in like New York or something like that. She was in a coma for over 12 years. And the husband, she was married when she went into the coma. Um, he had found a new person for his life. He thought she was never going to wake up.
mm-mm.
Well, his she didn't have a health care directive, and her mom and dad had to go to court and make him and fight him, even though he was her husband, not to let him pull her life support.
Wow.
She actually woke up from her coma, lucky for her, after
Wow.
12 years. But the fact that, you know, in the moment when you're incapacitated, think about if you're like, I think of me, my mother, I'm her youngest child, and she often refers to me as her baby. I'm an old baby, I know, but still I'm her baby, okay? And I would hate that if I were incapacitated, and I would want my husband to turn off all the plugs. That's just me, okay? Now you may feel different, Calvin, and I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't want my mother and my children and my husband
Resources.
bickering when I could have just, with a very easy document that costs not very much at all, that can be easily enforced, could have made that document and let my wishes be known.
And kept it moving. And then, I mean, so what's the cost of that in money as well? Because, and I'm asking that because I've
It,
seen people who their parents have medical issues. People don't have policies or other options in place, whether it's savings, annuities, these types of things aren't there. So now you have someone, whether they're in 30s or 40s, people who have, but now they're taking care of the parents. So now they exhaust their resources taking care of their parents. And I know me, I wouldn't want my kids exhausting their resources to take care of me. So what is the cost? Is there any costs that are related to this?
well, certainly, I mean, sometimes parents, when they're older, you would want a health care directive for them. I mean, I think if my mother were to go in a coma, I don't know if her quality of life would be the same as it is right now. It might be worse. But I will just tell you that my grandmother, who died when she was 94, it's actually my husband's
Mm.
grandmother. Um, she had an operation when she was 92, and that operation made her speech not come back in right. They used anesthesia, and I don't know if you know this with older people, sometimes their speech, you have to go through speech therapy and you may not get your speech back. So
Wow.
by the time she passed away at 95, all she could do was wiggle her baby toes to say yes once. One wiggle was yes, two wiggles was no.
Wow.
And she couldn't talk. She could just look at us and wiggle her toe. She couldn't even move her hands or anything. So my point is, her mind was still really sharp, but nothing else worked. Nothing else worked. I'm not. I think she lived the appropriate life that she wanted to live. But about a year before she passed away, when she could still kind of talk and tell us what she wanted, she filled out a healthcare directive. She said, "Do not resuscitate me." Um, I'm not now if I what if I have children and they're traveling and I'm not with them? I need to be able to give a healthcare directive to my sister if my daughter's with my sister, or I need because surgeons and hospitals, they need to act quickly. So healthcare directives are, especially if you've got a young person going off to college, they're a young adult, they're just getting established. You want a healthcare directive for them. You want to know what direction to go in. So that is a healthcare directive. What do they cost, Calvin? They can cost anywhere from nothing, which it might not be a very good one,
Mm.
to a couple $100. Um, and there are many programs where if you buy a particular type of plan, like an estate plan or a will, they often throw those in as extra documents at no fee. Just
Okay.
depends on how you do it.
Okay, well, awesome. Well, let's continue on here. And I know you touched on this question a little bit. Three major challenges. You can hit this real quick. I know you talked about it when we were talking about money. What are some of the? You talked about people not making enough money, people spending more than they have. You talked about it a little bit, but can you hit on this really quickly, just to wet people's ears with three challenges that you think that are facing employees? Because I know a lot of people feel, I got a pension, I'm gonna be good.
Yeah. Three challenges are oftentimes they don't put away enough. That's number one. They themselves do not put away. I unfortunately have a family member who he gets matched 5%. He's lucky he has a pension that they match him 5%.
Mhm.
He doesn't put 5%. He puts 2%. So he's leaving money on the table.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
So, and partly is because he was never educated. Um, and and also he's a really smart person, so he's very arrogant to want to come to my classes because he doesn't think he can learn anything new.
So, what would you say to people there? Can I insert that in there? Because you mentioned this earlier. There are people that are making money, people that make six figures. And some of these jobs, engineers, like you say, computer programmers, developers, people that make money, but lawyers, but just because you make money doesn't mean you know what to do with it. So, what would you say to somebody that's watching right now before and we'll jump back into that? But since you mentioned it, I just wanted to chime in on
Well,
that. What would you say to someone who feels they know everything they need to know about money? I don't need a class. I don't need financial literacy. I
well,
got it.
you know what? We're honored, you, Calvin, and myself. We are so honored because we are a part of this huge campaign all across North America, not just the United States, but Canada as well, as Puerto Rico and and all of the United States territories. Soon, I know we'll be in Europe and Mexico. Um, but we're lucky because we go into like the FBI, uh, the University of Harvard, University of Columbia, synagogues, anywhere that will have us. Um, and the thing is that that the FBI has us. I think that's pretty telltale, Calvin. And the reason why I think that is because most people that work for the FBI, even if you're like a paper pusher, like you're, maybe the executive secretary, you have to have some legal background for the work that you do.
Oh, wow.
So these are highly educated people, but they didn't take a finance class. They're not in the financial industry. So that they have us come to their organization once a
Right.
year to
Right.
bring
Right.
our literacy program, I think that speaks volumes. As to people who don't grab that opportunity, I just always think that there's never a moment that is not teachable. Every moment in life is teachable. And just in case, sometimes I'll enroll myself in something that I think I know everything about it, whatever the topic happens to be, because I'm like, maybe there's something new and like a 3.0, okay, that I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I always tell people, always because sometimes we get within, the difference between going to Harvard, going to Harvard and maybe going to Columbia
Right.
University, since I said them, you know, totally different professors. There's going to be subtleties, and maybe one of those professors are going to impart something a little bit different that's going to make turn you on to a better learner. I don't know, but I just know that Everybody needs to seize those opportunities. Like, to get back to your question is, are they matching? If they're being matched, they need to match. Never leave free money on the table. That's free money, okay? It's like walking by a $5 bill and
Right.
leaving it on the ground.
So,
And number two is, there are many organizations, less than 4% of companies today offer any kind of pension. And if they
wow.
do, it's usually self-funded pension like a 401k or a 403.
Hmm.
And then the next thing I would say is, they don't put away enough money into their pension. And the third thing that they do that I think is really important, and I hope everybody hears me, is there are three places that you can put your money. There's tax now, there's tax later, which is really tax deferred, and then there's tax advantage.
Hmm.
Most people don't understand the tax advantage. They'll go, "Oh yeah, it's a Roth." There's more to just Roth. And also there's actually a fourth element, the fourth dimension of money, okay? And that fourth dimension is called managed growth. Most people don't understand it. They don't understand how to implement it. It does require just a little bit of study, and people can do a lot better if they understand managed growth, and actually maybe get more bang for their dollar when you consider the yields to their income, because they understand
Yes.
tax advantage.
Okay, well, awesome. Well, and we're gonna just do two more questions, and I know I'm gonna get you out. Again, thanks for being here. So here's the next question here. I know this is one might be near and dear to the heart. You're in I'm not San Antonio. You're in El Paso there, but what is it out there to assist these families to get higher degrees without having to exhaust their parents' retirement, having to exhaust equity, in the home to make that happen? So, what is out there for that? Can you address this question here?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked me that question, Calvin. So if anybody's on that's got a child, whether they're 6 years old or in high school or off to college, and they have more children going to college, you know how I talked about the fourth dimension as being managed growth? Well, there's a fifth dimension that's only for people who are parents, okay? Um, and that is understanding how to maximize, and understanding that university, I think I was telling you earlier today, one day your children they will graduate and they will be ready to go to college. But the question is, will you be ready when they're ready to go? Will you financially be ready? And will you be mentally ready? One of the biggest things that I see as a challenge for parents today is that they really have to attack university from a multifaceted type of approach. And what do I mean by that? From the time my son was in fifth grade until he graduated, for the last 11 years, I've been involved in a college preparedness program. I go to these classes; they're absolutely free. They're no cost. In fact, we have them every Monday at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So just make the conversion wherever you're at in America. Um, and what I learned was, not only did I learned where to put my money, so that we could get a really good interest rate on the money we would use for university, but I also learned something really important, Calvin. I learned that I could put him in early college. So when he started his first year of university, which was last year, a year ago in the fall, he started his second semester sophomore year. So right now, he is in his first semester senior year this semester. So he'll be done with university in the fall of next year. And that means we ended up not paying for 3 semesters of university. So we saved a lot of money. I calculated it roughly, Calvin, it's about $60,000. Uh, can't,
Kid, that looks so. Yeah, let's use the private chat. Can we do that? She gave. But they that was a nugget for people just watching this, right? That's something they can do to help them save money. That's $60,000 in savings. And if I heard you correctly, you just gave out a tip, that can save people money by just you put your child into a high school where he got part of his college education, and it saved you money on that on the back end for college with him. So anyway, that is powerful statement right there. And if you're watching this, what I do want to say is, listen, we're part of a wonderful organization, but we're part of this national financial literacy campaign here. And today we have Sylvia Chamberlain, who's a financial educator and professional, who's here with us. And if you would like more information, how you can become a part of that campaign, I want you to click the link below, put your information in, and we will contact you. And so on our last question here, Sylvia, the last question here is kind of twofold. No, it's the last question. So this is it. This is the bam. This is the bang. What is the difference between a will and an estate plan? And do people need one? And so before you answer that, people that are watching these topics, you may have heard Sylvia speak on the classes that we offer that are free to you. You can register for, goes more in depth on these classes to empower you, because this is how you can save money and maximize the money you're making and putting away. So what is this difference? What is the difference between a will and an estate plan? And do I need one?
I'm glad you asked me that question. I'm going to give you the answer, and then I'm going to share a story because I think stories are more powerful. But just the basic answer to your question is an estate is really the foundational documentation to be able to transfer your worldly goods to whomever it is you wish to receive them. It are all the legal documents they will need after you have passed away. But the will is the instruction guide. So a lot of times people make a will and they think, okay, I'm good. I said my son should get the car, my daughter should get the house, and they should split all my 50,000 in the bank, right? But really, what happens is if the estate plan would actually put the paperwork and documentation in place for them to go ahead and make that transfer easily and effortlessly. But a will does keep your things out of probate, but it does not pick up the cost of the things that you want to transfer to whomever it is you wish after your death. So I know that death isn't a fun topic to talk about, but when you're talking about assets, it's something to keep in mind. I have a friend here in El Paso, a family, and they own a very large construction company. And it's full of $1 billion worth of like those big cranes that you see. And the gentleman and his two sons have been running that operation for, my goodness, the last 30 years or so. And he passed away. He never thought he would. He was in his 80s. He got COVID, unfortunately, and he passed away. Well, his wife, who is his son's stepmother, who's never had anything to do with the company, and she's always been very, very sick. So they always thought she would precede him in death. Now that he has passed, her, and his two sons are in court, and who knows when that will end. But I'm going to tell you that they're going to spend far more than $10,000 because there's billions at stake. She has 60% of interest in that company, and she knows nothing about how to run it. And that problem, Calvin, why I'm talking about it and just taking a few minutes to speak about it is this. That problem that could have cost him maybe $3,000 at most is now going to cost them anywhere into the hundreds of thousands to settle.
Wow.
And that is why you need an estate plan. Now, one last thing. You may say, well, you know what, Sylvia, I just have a house and a car and a bank account and my 401k. I'm 40 years old. It doesn't really matter. Maybe not, but for me, Calvin, I wouldn't want the state I live in to decide how my worldly goods should be distributed. I want to be in charge
Exactly.
of that.
Exactly. Exactly. Awesome. Exactly. Well, you know what? You have the floor, because these are some powerful nuggets. Again, people that are watching, I want to thank you for tuning in. This was our lunch and learn. Had some technical difficulties, but we're going live. And what I wanted to do was share this information, bring it to you, because I'm a campaigner. I'm part of this financial literacy campaign, which has the goal to educate 30 million families by the year 2030. But I just wanted to share some information with you. I was a veteran, and so I retired, but I wish I had known some of this information, because it would have set me up and put me in a better place. I wish I'd have known this information, especially when I was young and spending all my money at Starbucks, and we spend our money everywhere when we're young, and I could have saved that money and had it work for me. And so that's why I wanted to share this information and give you the opportunity to join the campaign. You have the link that's right there on the screen, scrolling at the bottom. Listen, click that link, give me your information. I will contact you. There's some possible free gifts for you, but we want you to join the campaign. Sylvia, I know, we have classes that people can tag into or join in, and now with Zoom they can join into these courses in the comfort of their own home, right? And they can get this information, some of these things, these topics you've touched on, but they can get them more in depth, and they can get it right there in their home. But can you give us some last comments as we close out?
Yeah, I would be glad to. First of all, Calvin, thank you for caring about your community and about our community and our nation and our the future, which is our children.
Right.
I hope that everybody will take the opportunity to take the 4 classes, and also if you're interested in the college class, let me know. And we have that for parents every Sunday at 1. But now you can get our classes 5 days a week, 3 times a day. We repeat the same class. Like if it's class 1, it repeats 3 times in one day. Then the next day is class 2, Monday through Friday. And I encourage you to take those classes. Even if you think there's nothing for you to learn, I promise you there's something you did not know that you will learn, and you'll be glad you came, because you'll be better for it. And I just ask you to please invite people to either talk to Calvin or myself, but to come and take our classes. They're really needed by everyone. No matter how savvy you think you are, there's always something that you can learn. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me.
No, and thank you, Sylvia. Have a great June. Again, you put your information in the bottom. I will follow up with you, and then you let me know. We will connect you with Sylvia and some of these classes. And Sylvia, thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the rest. Made it through the technical difficulty. We made it.
We did it. I appreciate you,
All
Calvin. And
right. Thank
everyone have a
you.
great day.
You
Thank you.
too. Awesome, guys. Listen, this is Calvin, and I just want to encourage everybody. You have the link on the bottom of the screen here. I wanted to share this information with you on today. Glad we had a wonderful guest speaker coming from El Paso, wonderful organization, part of World System Builder, and we have this massive financial literacy campaign. And I wanted to bring this to you. Please click the link below, and I will send you some information. We can get you registered in these classes, and you can do it right there from the comfort of your own home. If this has blessed you, you got something from this information. As always, this is my call to action. I want you to share this link. I want you to share this video on Facebook. It will be on YouTube. I'm going to upload it, but I want you to share this video. And I'll end with this question. Are you controlling your money, or does your money control you? Again, are you controlling your money, or does your money control you? And see you on the other side of financial education.